All right, let's see how this little test stream goes. So yeah, over here on data.world, let's get start at the Makeover Monday website. I have not seen any of the data set for this week yet. So I'm going to scroll down here on the Makeover Monday website to week 7. Grab the link here, and let's see what we're working with this week. I believe Harry pulled this data set together, so excited to see what he's got here. And we've got the Living Planet Index, so a measure of the state of the world's biological diversity based on population trends. Okay, interesting. So a topic that I don't know much about, but we are going to visualize it. Let's look at the data set here. We've got a pretty simple data set. It looks like we've got confidence intervals around a index essentially, and we've got that time series data by year, and the category might only be global, but we are going to download that data set and find out. I'll go ahead and boot up Tableau here. Cool. So let's see here. Do we just have global data? No, we don't. We have a lot of different domains, which is interesting. So let's filter this to just global for a minute here. Let's drag our year on. And let's drag our final LPI. So here's that trend that we were seeing in the original here. If we wanted to do something real wild and crazy, we could even add in our high and our low as measure values and make this a dual axis. And for our measure values, we could do something where maybe this is like dotted. And, maybe measure names isn't on color here. But we do need measure names on, not path. Wouldn't it be path? Measure names on path? Or no, it would be year on path. Nope. Category on path. No. Okay, hold that thought for a second. If we make both of these gray and we make this like a teal or something or other, we can start to get that distribution shape is what I was trying to say. Similar to what we have here. We could do this too with an area chart and do some subtraction here essentially to get rid of the bottom space, but I don't know if I necessarily want to go that route. I just need to figure out what it is that we are looking at here. So let me take a second. World Wildlife Foundation. Population has fallen. Well, this is no fun. Bummer. So is this the data that we're working with here? Average change in wildlife population sizes? This is from the report. Will this take me to... Okay, here we are. So here's where we're able to change the different categories. Living Planet Index is LPI. I'm going to go ahead and note that here. Living Planet Index. And I'm going to grab this and throw this in as a comment here, just so that I don't have to keep flipping back to this article. So now if I want to remind myself what this is, I should be able to hover here and see that text, which will be very helpful. Can I make that a little bit bigger? Comment, maybe make this like size 12 or something. Does that work? Yeah. Okay, cool. And then I'll just call this LPI lower, and this can be LPI upper. What am I doing? And then I'm going to start organizing this a little bit on my side here. So I'm going to create a folder for fields, and I'm just going to call it data source. And everything that we have over here is from the data source right now, so I'm just going to go ahead and throw these up here. And then additionally, I'm going to make one called calculated fields for now. And so as we start making calculated fields, I'll store them separate from the data source just to kind of stay organized over here. So let's jump back one more time. The bold line shows the index values, and the shaded areas represent the statistical certainty around 95% confidence interval. So that'll be good to know for our title later. The index represents 11,000 populations and 2,500 species. Got it. Okay. Index values are smoothed, keeping the first and final fixed. Okay, so we do have some smoothing going on too. All this will be useful for the title and the description and whatnot later on. About the index. Okay, cool. So at the end of the day, we've just got this trend, more or less, is how I'm thinking about this. What would happen if we wanted to look at some of the biggest drivers here? My first thought is I'm exploring this to just make a quick trellis chart. So I've actually got a blog post on that I can pull too. Let me flip to that really quick. It should be at the very bottom, because I remember saying that I would be going back here for future reference. I got my rows and my columns calculations here. Create parameter. We'll call this pcalls. If you want more context on this, you can always go to that blog. And I will create a calculated field. I can just take these guys and drag them in. Easy as that. I'll make both of these guys discrete. Move these into my calculated fields for now. I should be able to go columns to columns and rows to rows. Add our category to detail. And then make sure that these include category. Cool, cool. And now if we take our year and I'll just take the living planet index for now, and start to see all these side by side. And can I put like category on label or something right now? Interesting. I mean, so the first thing I'm noticing, right, is everything is trending down, which you hate to see. If we lay all of these on top of one another, I do wonder. We're going to use color just for funsies. I wonder what we see here. Interesting. So everything started indexed at 1, which is interesting. And then pretty much all of these trends never exceed 1, with the exception of the orange and red here, which is Europe and Central Asia, and then Asia and Pacific. So it looks like they did actually see some level of improvement in the Living Planet Index, especially Europe and Central Asia, up until recently here in like the year 2000. But since then, everything has been trending down. What would happen if we looked at like a table calc here and we did like the difference perhaps like year over year relative to the previous? This is just very messy. Um, Spaghetti charts. I wanted to see if we could find like a particular point in time where there was a lot of improvement. What's going on here? My zero line. Asia and Pacific, marine, freshwater, North America. Mm-mm-mm-mm. This is a tough one. I'm looking for a story here. What if we go back to that view here with the dual axis? I could make these. Nope, not that one. Sorry. Could make these dotted or something. Take these labels off for a minute. We'll add that later. See, I don't love this either. Marine, North America, terrestrial, freshwater, Africa. Wait, where's my global? Oh, right here. Interesting. It's interesting how much larger Africa has in confidence interval here. What if I filter down some of these to like, I'm going to remove freshwater, marine, terrestrial, and global even, and we'll just look at the regions. And like Latin America is on a steep decline and a pretty tight confidence interval, relatively speaking. Africa's got a massive confidence interval here. Asia and Pacific, so. Hmm. I'm wondering what a bump chart might look like, just comparing these 5 different regional categories here. So let's try that out. It's going to be tricky because we have to remember that they're all indexed to their respective values in 1970. So we'll have to call that out. But I'm curious if there's any sort of interesting story here that we can derive. If I take year here, and I'll create a calculated field and just call it rank of category. Well, not rank of category, right? Rank of LPI. I should be able to do just like max. And then we can drag this onto rows, and then here we can add a category to detail. Make these like circles or something here. And then change this like so. So for every year, we are computing the rank by category, which is perfect. And let me add category to color so we can actually look for some sort of trend. Make these a little bit bigger. Let's filter down here again, remove freshwater, marine, terrestrial, and global. Now we've got our 5. And I want my best ranks to be at the top, so I'll reverse that axis. Interesting. I didn't realize that Africa started in 70 and everything else was in 71. Is that right? No, there should be data in 1970. Oh, because they're all tied at 1. That makes sense. So they're all here. You see how we have 5 marks selected here? Okay, so then we'll exclude 1970 because you can't really rank that here, which makes sense. And then I can duplicate this and make this a dual axis, and we can add a line in here as well. So for my second one, something like that. How do we feel about the story here? So what we're measuring here is essentially relative to the year 1970, how each of these different regions performed on their living planet index, which again is a measure of the state of the world's biological diversity. So we're measuring biological diversity relative to 1970 by region and seeing which areas of the world are improving and which ones are declining. And I actually think there's an interesting story here, particularly with this pink section, which is North America in this case. You can see that they started off pretty low relative to the rest of the world, and then we do see a steady climb here over the years. So I think this might actually be the story that we roll with this week. And I might even focus in on North America. So first off, let me get a better color palette going on here. What if we grab, this is nature color palette. It's not terrible. Might change this out for like a blue. Maybe change out this neon green for, do we have anything like this? It's a little too green. What else do we got? I don't want to spend too much time playing with colors, but that's not bad. This bluer shade here. Cool. And then if we were to highlight just North America, it's not bad. Again, though, I think I want something a little bit more categorical, and I'm not feeling that here. I don't want to spend 20 minutes looking at colors here. All right. Just grab from here. I want to make sure that North America has a good amount of pop to it. So I'll grab like this dark blue, and the rest of these can be more so secondary. Something like that maybe. But then we're gonna select just this one North America mark right now. Do we want to assign that as a highlight color? Maybe. Oops, that's the line. Which I don't actually mind is a lower opacity. That looks bad though. All right, cool. So let's start typing out that title that we're brainstorming here. So that'll be like our subtitle. So what is our main title here, right? We're looking at the, type that for spacing. State of the world's biological diversity. So I'm just going to call this biological diversity. Um, Relative to 1970. Living Planet Index, biological diversity relative to 1970. And then here's where we're going to call it our insight and say North America has seen the um, it was yellow, Europe and Central Asia. So maybe we'll say, while Europe and Central Asia have seen the lowest decline since 1970. North America has shown greater resistance. We're going to have to wordsmith this a bit, but has shown greater resistance. So, what are we measuring here with the bump chart, right? This is ultimately ranking each country, and we might need to call this out somewhere. Um, but so, what is this showing? Let's talk it out first. We are showing relative to each country's LPI score in 1970, what the index is by year. Okay. With the bump chart, we are ranking those indices I think, over time. But recall they are always anchored to a score in 1970. Okay, that helps, I think. So there's a couple insights here, right? First thing that we noticed is every region is seeing a decline from 1970 to 2020, which is 50 years. Secondly, we're seeing that, like, kind of our service level insight, in 2020, Europe and Central Asia are closest to their 1970 level. So, slowest decline. And then three, relative to other regions, North America appears to be slowing their slowing their decline. Those are the three insights. So we'll see if we can encompass those here. And then our title is So these are kind of our stories here. Mm-mm-mm-mm. We could do a story and create a visual for each of these three slides here. Because this would essentially be our story point number 3, right? If we applied a highlight color like this would be helpful. Every region is seeing a decline. We essentially have that story here. We could show that with something like this. In 2020, Europe and Central Asia is closest to the 1970 level. We could show that here by filtering to just 2020. Grabbing our category, just put it in like detail. Grab the index and do like, I don't know, circles. And then we have to filter this again. Africa, Asia, Europe, Latin America, North America. Keep only. This does feel like, can I make this discrete? Do like a slope chart here. Then I'll add like one more thing here. Maybe like slope chart circles. I want to have like a circle on the end point of each of these. We can just say if year equals 2020, then the field. And nope. Oh, because of aggregation stuff. So I don't know. Min veer. Drop this guy in here. Make this a dual axis and synchronize. And then now we can go to our slope chart circles, make these circles. We get something like this, which I don't hate. Our colors are a little bit wonky though. Let's take this off. Okay, so we've got every region is seeing a decline, and that's clear here. We've got that in 2020, Europe and Central Asia are closest to their 1970 level, which is here. And then we've got relative to other regions, North America appears to be slowing their decline, which we've got here. I'm gonna get rid of this sheet and get rid of this sheet. And we'll start to focus on these three. So I'll call this Insight 3. Call this Insight 2. And this is Insight 1. We want to format this a little bit too over here. Make this maybe bold. Make it, we could do like size 16 and like size 12 or something. I should probably do that here. is insight 3. And then insight 2. Something like that. We're going to have plenty of cleanup here to do. Do a little bit of color encoding for some of these. I haven't really done much with stories before, if I'm being honest. And I'm not super excited about learning how to do it right now. Maybe we can just slap these 3 insights on a dashboard and call it a day. So here, if we do something like this, what, 1000 by 800, 0, 1800. And then I'm going to resize the dashboard to maybe like 1400, 14 by 9 maybe, something like that. And then inside of here, we want our big title, text size 20. Eventually we'll want a footer, so I'll just throw that in now. Footer, size 11. And I'm thinking that we do like a 2-row kind of thing, and we do like insight 1, insight 2, and then insight 3 on the bottom. Unless we have one that we think is more important. No, I think that works for me. Unless we made this, oops, like straight across the top. I might actually like that better. Bear with me. If we add a vertical container, but not below the footer, then we can say take insight 2 and insight 3. Before we do this, I'm going to make a floating container to catch all the legends and junk. Just put it over here for now. Insight 2, insight 3. And then we can add, I don't even need another container. I can just drop this guy in here. And maybe we can distribute these guys evenly. And then add some padding to all these. 20 might be a bit much, but we're going to give it a go. Make this like, I don't know, 125. This like 35. Oops. Just trying to clean this up a little bit. If we multiply this rank of living planet index by 1.0, I can add a little bit of precision here, which is helpful if I want to start this at like 0.5, for example, and end at 5.5. because now on our axis we don't see 0 and 1. And if I had started this at like 1, for example, you'll see that these circles get cut in half. So that was my thinking there. It's not a ton of space for this bump chart, but I think that's fine because the insight here isn't all that wild. What if we put these on the little tick marks? How does that look on the dashboard? Not bad. Not bad. I don't think we even need an axis here. I desynchronized, oops. Like this. Maybe we can just take this and put this in our title. All right, I think we're starting to get somewhere. Let's clean up these grid lines. 0 lines, axis rulers, dividers. And maybe we can put labels on this too. Haven't gotten there yet, but I don't think that's a bad idea. Same sort of thing here. Something like that. I feel like we might want like a reference line here at 1 for these. Notice to a constant line. Oops. Constant line across here at 1. We can edit this so there's no label, no tooltip, but we can make this darker. Make it clear this is kind of where we're starting. Maybe this is a dashed line. I think that's all right. I think that helps to show when Europe and Central Asia actually saw improvement for a little bit. Same with Asia and Pacific region. Take off the grid lines here. I might actually want these row and column dividers this time. Or maybe not row, but at least column. Maybe we can do a little bit of this. 1961 to like 2029. Give these guys a little more breathing room. But then I want these to be, yeah, perfect. 70, 80, 90. Cool, cool. What is the height of this, by the way? Are these 370 and 370? Okay, cool. Do. I wouldn't mind having a little bit more spacing below this. Same with this guy. circles a little bit smaller. I think that's still okay. I'll do a little bit of color here. Make that bold. And swatch this. We're gonna make a couple like ad hoc. Call this color insight 2. If category equals Europe and Central Asia, then, well, that doesn't even necessarily be true. This can just be category. Now, oops. Getting a little bit lazy with this. If we go here, oh no, this is fine. For Insight 2, we can edit this color legend. Or no, I was right. We want to go here and make sure that our yellow is highlighted. Okay, fine. I'll add the color legend to the dashboard. Make this bigger. Make sure this is highlighted. And now we can go to our Insight 2, edit these colors. And now, oh geez, this is so hard to tell. Here, I lied. We're doing it this way. Edit colors. Africa is this. Asia and Pacific is this. Europe and Central Asia is this. Boom, boom. And here. And now what we can do is we can go to this sheet, select Europe, right click this and select assign highlight colors to palette. There we go. And now this stays highlighted accordingly, while the rest of these color legends are not impacted, which is what I wanted. Then we can do something similar here for Insight 3. If we replace this guy here, these are going to break. Oh, because I have category and color. So if we move category to detail and then add color here, then we have to go in and make sure that these table calcs are configured correctly. There we go. Then we should be able to add our base colors as well to the side. Legends, color legend. So this is our main one, and then we need our Insight 3. Oops. Oh, this is fine. Africa, Asia, Europe, Latin America, and North America. And then here we want to highlight North America. Boom. Cool. I don't hate that. What if we make this whole thing like a little bit more telemedium, perhaps? Do the same thing here. this footer at some point. What happened here? Lost our highlight. There we go. I kind of want this to be a darker color. Can we make this a darker yellow, maybe? This even looks like a darker yellow. Yeah. About that. Cool, cool. And if we stretch this guy to, maybe this is like insight 1 label. We'll say if year equals, what is halfway between 2020 and 1970? It's 1995. No, this is perfect. If year equals 1995, then 1.5 end. This is going to be a problem then, because we already have a dual axis on here. We could add this to measure values though. If year equals 1995, then 1.5 end. If we add this here, we get a dot, which is good. And then for this guy, we can make this just like white. Little dot goes away. And then we can add a label. It's not exactly how I want this though. I'm gonna nuke this. Because this is static, I might just drag the label. So if we go to our measure values, and we add, category is on label already. That's way more than we want. If we go back to label, we scope this by pane, I believe, and we just label the minimum value. Okay, but this is close because we have label here and we want that not there. There we go. Cool. So we've got one label for each of these. I think I can. Oh, heck. Wait, I should do it the other way around. If we keep the label there, remove it here, then we can go up here and select match mark color. Make this something bold. Just Tableau bold is fine. Something like size 12. Then on the dashboard, we can just grab these labels and center them ourselves. It's a little bit janky, but I think it will get us what we want. And then these guys fell off. There they are. Nice. Cool. I think this works. I think we've got 3 insights here. I might add a little bit more padding on these guys. That's a lot of padding. Something like this. You can be less tall. You might need to be a little bit taller even. Cool. I like it. Do we need anything from over here? I don't think we do. So we'll just get rid of this. I might edit down some of the top padding on these actually. Maybe to like 10. Just for the feng shui. Just kind of scanning the overall look and feel of this. Our tooltips are a mess, so we'll need to fix that. So what if we make this all relative to 1970 and then format it as a percentage? Do that for all of these. Oops, there we go. Number format, we make these a percentage with 2 decimals. And then I can do the same thing for the circles. And then we can just say living planet index relative to 1970. And then slope chart circles don't even need to be in the tooltip. Got it. So then what we can do is we can just put our color insight to, which will give us our country name. And then here we can add our year into this line. And then in parentheses, relative to 1970. And then pass the value. And maybe make this like size 12 or something. Cool. That tooltip works. This one's going to be a bit of a doozy as well. What do we need and what do we not need? We can just keep category instead of insight 3 this time. We want our year and we definitely want our rank. We want our rank formatted a little bit nicer. So we'll grab our rank, go to number format, number custom, 0 decimals. And we could even add our actual value here to our tooltip. Cool. So we could do like Asia and Pacific, rank number 1 in 1971, and then parentheses the value. So let's do that. This thing. Grab this. We'll just say rank number blank in blank. I'm doing this in a weird kind of way so that I can keep the colors of the default tooltip. Let me just grab like some amount of text here to throw here. And this is sum of living planet index. Cool. Something like that. Oops, I forgot a space. I actually think I want to flip-flop these. Make this not bold and make this bold. And then what color is this? This is the second black down. like that. I think that's decent. We need to edit this guy now. So that our axis is percentage with 0 decimals. What if we add a little bit of padding on the top here? Make this like 1.6, 6.5. Nice. Now we can get this to not overlap. And then we've got one more tooltip to play with. Okay, so here, I'm gonna remove all of these from tooltip for a minute. Definitely don't need calls and rows. And then we got our year category. And then for all of them, since I want the upper and lower bounds, I'm just going to drag all 3 of these on to tooltip. And then I can use them all across the board. And so here, again, we want our category to list our countries. Maybe this time we do like parentheses 1970 or whatever the year is. And then we can say LPI, Living Planet Index, relative to 1970. And then we can say 95% confidence interval. And then this can be parentheses number to number, basically. So upper to lower. Something like that. Maybe. There we go. So we're gonna just call this LPI. I totally forgot to put the metric there, by the way. We want this to be size 12. What is the color of this guy? I can't even tell. 757575 is the hex. So that is what you will be. You can be bold. Something like that. But then these guys need to not have the decimals. Oops, I did lower. Percentage 0 decimals. That does not apply. Let's do it here then. Default properties, number format, 0 decimals. There we go. Cool. I like it. We just got to do our footer. I'll make these a little bit darker too. Why not? Cool. We'll do a little Viz by Blake Feza. Data source. What was it again? livingplanet.panda.org. What does Makeover Monday call it? Oops. ZSL and WWF. Awesome. Because I like things to be pretty. I'll do this. Oops. Something like that. Nice. Make this medium. One tick darker. Cool, cool. I don't think this title color changed. I thought so. What do these look like with borders? Humor me. I think they might look a little bit better. $15 was a dumb number. We'll do 16, and then 8, 16, and then 8. There we go. Now I'm liking it a little bit more. But now the 40 feels a bit egregious. At least 30 on the bottom. Good old arbitrary padding. And I think that's going to do it. I think we're going to call it here. Nothing too wild and crazy this week, but I think this will do the trick. I'll move these into my calculated fields folder, close these up, reorder these, Makeover Monday, because I'm a silly goose. I like these to be colored. We'll do this. Hide all sheets. And awesome. We'll do a little file save. If we say this is a packaged workbook, then we can do Makeover Monday, 26 week. Oh, I don't know what week this is. Was it 7? Yes. Cool, cool. Make our extract. Public. Ah, and I'm over an hour. Shame. I was so close. Makeover Monday. Little dot. lines persist. Let's do that one more time. If we go to format workbook, just go to grid lines off. We can re-upload one more time. Cool. And that's Makeover Monday for this week. Thank you for tuning in to the pilot here.